You're tuned in to Steve Megatron on Altered Geek.
Hello and welcome to Altered Geek. I'm your host, Steve Megatron Phillips, and in this episode, I have kind of a nice little grab bag of variety of topics. Everything from some historical options, some listener feedback, some podcasting events coming up, as well as some news on shows coming back and being canceled, and some Orville content. It's going to be a lot of stuff today. So, getting right into it, those that may or may not know, I did a video with my wife, Fit Ready Go. My wife and I decided last week to do this whole 5-day fasting, water fast challenge, where you basically just don't eat for 5 days. I will say that the first 2 days were horrendous for me, just based on the fact that I was having caffeine withdrawals and I was hungry. But it wasn't terribly bad. I did get to day 3 though, and I was like, okay, I'm done. I felt better. I had my energy back. I had intense pain on the second or third day in my legs, which is supposed to, I guess, when you're doing this fast, is supposed to unlock these innate healing abilities in your body. And I can actually attest to the fact that it works, because my knees and my legs had been throbbing and killing me for months. And I did this fast, and they hurt. Oh, I could barely walk on the one day. And then the following day, I've had full mobility back in my joints and in my legs, and it's been awesome. But I also noticed that the brain fog that I was under managed to lift. So I'm able to wake up clearer, even if I got 3.5 hours sleep, which is amazing. It's made kind of a difference in that category. I've been on it. My primary reason for doing it, my wife's was, she was doing it for spiritual reasons. I was doing it for physical reasons, because I've been having stomach gut issues for better part of 3 months. I finally went to the doctor. I don't know anything for the most part yet. I got to get tested, but the issue still persists afterwards. I was hoping it would take care of the issue, but it did not. Although I have to regard that with, I did eat like crap once I got back to food. We still had some candy and chocolate left. I ate it, destroyed my stomach. Which my wife, when she did the fast, she did the full 5 days. I broke after 3.5 days. I just was done. I wanted to eat a nice hearty meal. But yeah, so she did the full fast. She lost, I think, about 15 pounds doing it. And it helped her in a variety of ways. She's had the brain fog lifted as well, and it's supposed to also kind of rebuild some of your brain cells like that may have gone asleep, and kind of put you on a different, instead of burning sugar, you're burning fat kind of thing. So anyways, that aside, I did that last week, and so that was part of the reason why I didn't have Future Imperfect or All Things Transformers at the beginning of this week, was because I just didn't have it in me to do anything. And yeah, next week there will actually be no Tuesday and Thursday episode of Altered Geek. Mike Powers is we had a option to connect, and I was unavailable for the day of connection, so we just opted to go into it fresh next week and record, and then we'll start off the following week with the triple shot again. So next week it'll just be it'll just be probably one episode again. This week we've had 3, so Anyways, getting into more of the episode here. I've been kind of excited about something that's coming up, and if you remember, a few years ago I did that SmithsonianX superheroes class. Well, they're coming out with another one. I may or may not have mentioned this, where they're having they created a character called Veritas Man, the superhero and philosopher, spokesperson for SmithsonianX Philosophy and Superheroes course. It's by C.J. Rochabald. He's which is Chris Rochabald. He's a senior lecturer in ethics and public policy at the Harvard Kennedy School, and publishes things on pop culture and philosophy and RPGs, horror, whatever. So, anyways, he's teaching this online course, and I think it's kind of cool how he's doing this. And so I'm going to be taking this class, and may not be paying to get it with a certificate this time, but I'm pretty excited for this to continue my superhero knowledge. So, getting into that, it starts January 16th, 2018. So if you want to take that, it's at edx.org. Just search for Power, Responsibility, Doing Philosophy, Smithsonian Philosophy 1.1. It's a 1 to 5 hour per week class, 5 weeks. Free, but you can add a certified certificate for $49. So yeah, gonna be pretty cool. Check it out. And then of course, Weird Al. I am a huge fan. However, the last time I got the opportunity to see him in concert was in 1999, July of 99. I think I still have the ticket somewhere. But he's coming back. He's doing a whole new thing. He's doing in March one in Grand Rapids, and he's doing another one in the very next day in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I'm hoping to get my brother for the Ann Arbor one and go see Weird Al. It's been a long time, but he's doing it's called the Ridiculously Self-Indulgent Ill-Advised Vanity Tour with special guest Emo Phillips, who was the dude that cut his fingers off in UHF. So it's going to be a set of comprised almost entirely of his original non-parody songs, with limited production, no costumes, props, or video screens, very scaled down, smaller, more intimate theaters with limited production. So it sounds interesting. So I'm going to try and get my brother to go with me. I think that would be really awesome. And then when I was mentioning the thing about YouTube and the posting the video, I tried to monetize it, and it was basically demonetized right away because it doesn't have 1,000 views, which I think is ridiculous. But I haven't uploaded a video in over a year, so I didn't even really realize the rules had changed. But I noticed Jason Inman, who's pretty popular with DC All Access, host, podcaster for GeekHistoryLesson.com, Schmodown, Jupiter Jet Comic, whatever. So anyways, he did a review on Star Trek, Despite Yourself, episode 10. And it was demonetized. And he says, if you would, please click on it. The more views it gets, the faster YouTube will remonetize. Thanks for your help. Have a lovely day. I think that's such crap of what YouTube is doing to these people. Like, you build this platform on helping people make a living and post content on your platform, and then you screw all of them, like, simultaneously. So I'm not a fan of the whole thing is they're kind of marketing this. So, returning with the feedbacks. We have, well, not a whole lot this past week, but everybody's been kind of busy. It's been that time of year anyway. Little plus side, I finally got all of the podcasts listed under iTunes Connect for podcast analytics. They're still not all under the same account for the podcast part in management, but we're getting a step closer, so we'll see how that goes. So anyways, we had the Cinematic Disappointments episode, which Brad says, I think that the internet has been toxic since it began. While you remember Transformers 07 as being a start because you're Transformers fans and the introduction of social media definitely brought it out into the public eye, it's existed in fan forums for even longer. Yeah, I forget about that. You know, the alt forums and the old school message boards. I forget about all that because I've been on social media for so long. No, I agree. It's been around since like the old 90s message boards too. Like I forgot totally about all that. There were even threats during and a lot of stuff that went on during the Beast Wars era and stuff on there. And then Star Wars and everything else. And then going into the early 2000s, we had like the websites with the message boards instead of just message boards on their own. And yeah, I forgot there were a lot of flame wars on a lot of them. I was on a lot of those forums that had a lot of it. So yeah, thanks for reminding me how old I am with that information. I forget about it. I haven't used it in so long. He says, even go back as far as Beast Wars Truck Not Monkey. That's kind of what made me remember the Transformers forums. Lord of the Rings fans annoyed because Tom Babaldi was cut from the films. And the year 3 franchises, enders like Spidey 3 and X-Men 3, look at the hate for any new early Marvel film pre-Iron Man. Yeah, I totally get it. Yep. Man, that's crazy. So yeah, then continuing on in this conversation, Booth Ninja says, oh yeah, it existed for sure, but you weren't bathed in it when you turned on your phone or computer. You had to look for it. But it exploded into the mainstream, in his opinion, with the Transformers film, which he's not a fan of, and Facebook and Twitter really taking off the same year. And then Brad says, yeah, I see that. And Dave Musgrave mentions that part of the problem is also that people are obsessed with continuations and exploring the origins of various stories and characters and forego anything new and original. Problem is these sequels and prequels never live up to expectations. And so the movie-going audience is perpetually disappointed, but like heroin junkies, they keep chasing the dragon. I totally agree with everything he's just said. It's kind of like funny. Everything you've just said is completely true. So yeah, it's kind of funny. I have no nostalgia for like the origins or going back. Like I want to see the continuations, like in a sense, but I don't want to see them fall back on trying to fill an era. I would have rather that they had just jumped. And again, this is kind of even with Star Trek, kind of jumped into another random era or timeline, or I'm kind of sick of like the multiple movie thing, like with franchises. I don't feel like there needs to be more than a trilogy, because I mean, back in the day, a trilogy was a huge deal. Now you look at it and you get like an entire like tentpole franchise, and it's just nuts. Then Dave kind of continues it, when Brad mentions about the prequels, he's like, for a long time, comics, expanded universe novels, and video games sated fan bases of their hunger for continued and alternative storylines, which, again, is true, and I think it fit really well because it kind of played to that merchandising capability that kind of kept the ball moving to where people would buy the merchandise and still get their fix of hearing a different side of the story or different parts of the personas. However, it's not canon, so it's still it fits into the head canon, but it doesn't. Every book has its own taste and feel for every type of person. So it's kind of interesting there. And then He says, while Hollywood worked hard to perfect CGI and bloat production budgets to fund such effects wizardry, thing is, Tim Zahn's Heir to the Empire was a far more interesting and fascinating read than the script of The Force Awakens, which was a rehash of A New Hope. He says, could or would ever be, as were the Alien vs. Predator comics, compared to what Mila Jovovich, hubby, and the brothers Strauss ended up sharding into cinema screens. It's this guy is like spot on. Like, I think that these guys like kind of fit the vibe that myself and Michael are at this point with a lot of the stuff, and it's just becoming more evident the more time goes on of how this kind of works. So yeah, that's some craziness, man. And anyways, moving into the last week's full episode where I talked about the Animaniacs and whatnot, I did have fun going back and watching some of those old cartoons. Tim Silver says, I am looking forward to the Animaniacs revival, actually, and I'm glad it will be on Hulu since I have a subscription and we don't have cable anymore. Great show, keep them coming. Thank you for the info on the show. And yeah, I'm enjoying the stuff on Hulu as well and watching these shows, and I'm not a big proponent of a lot of the separate streaming services, but I do have to say that I've enjoyed Netflix and Hulu as a whole. Netflix just came to the point where there was just nothing on it I really wanted to watch that was different, and Hulu's kind of full of it at this point. So I'm enjoying my run through Hulu. So it's been an entertaining run going through a lot of those shows, and plus I can watch all the Star Trek shows on it, as well as like the old TGIF shows, which my wife and I have been going back watching, like Home Improvement, Boy Meets World, Step by Step, Family Matters, Full House, a lot of the old Friday night shows and sitcom programming stuff that was a part of the TGIF. So it's been a lot of fun going back and rewatching that and reminiscing on that old content. So yeah, that's about it. And a couple of little things, kind of jumping into the Orville land, since it's been a pretty good show, and I'm looking forward to it coming back. I wonder how long it's going to take people to cosplay as this stuff. Like, I've seen Star Trek up the wazoo, but I haven't seen Orville. And honestly, the Orville uniforms aren't that bad looking. They look very Star Trek look. They said that season 2 will feature more sci-fi, to be at least 14 episodes. And somewhere it got miscommunicated that the show was going to be kind of not coming out in 2018 for season 2, and he says, Seth MacFarlane comes out with a bit of correction, saying no, there won't be an Orville Family Guy crossover, and yes, the season 2 will arrive later this year. So that's nice to hear. He says, I think it's going to be at least 14 episodes. I'd rather do fewer episodes and have them be better content-wise than do 22 and have them be filler, which is exactly the mentality that myself and Michael Powers had talked about months ago with any of the shows. Even when we were talking with, even when I was talking with Birdman Don about Star Trek, less is better. They can put more money into it, better production quality, better stories, and not have a throwaway show. Like, I hate filler episodes. So like when there's something of purpose, it makes it all the better to watch every episode. They also said that the show was, experimental in a lot of ways, tone, biggest experiment, and yeah, so they were teasing in December that they were creating Muppets for the Orville, so it should be funny. I also want to bring up how Jonathan Frakes, who directed episodes of the Orville and Discovery, primarily the recent episode, Despite Yourself on Discovery, he says stylistically between the two. He says your responsibility as an episodic television director is when you do a show like the Orville, you want that show to look like Next Generation, which is what I've been alluding to the entire time. And he said, and when you go to Canada to do Star Trek Discovery, they want the show to have the feeling and look and vibe of the J.J. Abrams era Star Trek, which, again, I've been saying. Much more cinematic, a lot of crane work and a lot of movement, a lot of Dutch angles. On Next Generation, the traditional framing and the things we became accustomed to as fans of the show, we see in the Orville because that's the look. And I've been basically saying the same thing, and so it's just kind of funny to hear somebody officially say it that's a director. He says Frakes also added that he felt that the two shows can coexist peacefully, noting there's room, obviously, in the fans' heart for both styles of Star Trek. So he even equates it to being a Star Trek of sorts. And I totally agree. I like the show. I think that it's got a lot of promise on both of them. And there's little rumors now on Legends of Tomorrow that with the removal of some characters and John Constantine showing up, and they're saying that we could see Wally West join. They said that you might see Wally West show up on Legends, and they were asking to get an answer, and he's like, I can't answer it. You'll have to watch. And I think that we're going to eventually see Wally become a member of the Legends because there's really no place for him elsewhere, and he kind of will fill that void by Firestorm. And I think that that's kind of the perfect fit at this point for his character. Another side note is we have the new Ninja Turtles show getting ready to come up. We've got the new kind of shell-looking thing in blue and white. It kind of looks like a shell with almost like a snowflake, and then it's got TMNT in the new text style. Their Twitter account, TMNT, which is funny. They actually follow me on Twitter, which is kind of cool. They have the 1984, 87, all the way through to the 2018 iterations of characters, and they've got Ben Schwartz, who's going to be playing Leonardo on the show, and I guess he's Dewey on the current DuckTales. So I'm kind of excited to see where they go with this. I'm not entirely sure what this series has in store. It says that and they're having fun just posting random images of stuff, and then Ninja Turtles Winter Starter Pack, 3 cheese pizzas and gloves, a collage of like Mikey sticking his tongue out and stuff. And they said John Cena will be voicing Baron Draxum, the newest villain in Rise of the TMNT, which that just came out literally 58 minutes ago. Had I recorded this any sooner, you would have not had that in this episode. So, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what they do with all the characters and the designs of these characters in the show. It's going to be an interesting ride. That's all I have to say. So stay tuned to TMNT on that. So getting into a little bit of, I'm going to talk a little bit of tech. However, I'm not going to talk CES. I'm going to wait until Mike Powers joins me because I think that would be a fun discussion to go around with an additional person rather than just myself, because there may be different things that interest me and that interest, than what interest him. So I don't really want to dive into that at this point. So I'm going to leave that there until next week. And hopefully we come back to it. I'm going to try something that is cool, though, is Razer. They make mice, keyboard, peripherals for computers. They used to make, game pads. I don't know if they still do. But they have a new battery-free wireless gaming mouse, which is, it's supposed to be surprisingly light. They said that the mouse sitting on a Razer gaming pad means that everything is black except for some bright, colorful lights, and when you pick the mouse up, it's way too light to be wireless. After 10 seconds, the cursor and screen flickers and lights on the mouse turn off. It's disconnected because this mouse, the Razer Mamba Hyperflex, powers itself entirely from the mouse pad. There's no battery, which honestly is fine. If the mouse pad is decently sized, I'm totally game with that. I really like the idea of not having this big hulk of a thing to move around. And when I say Hulk, I mean I don't like the heaviness. I don't like having to put batteries in. I don't like for it to basically run itself while on the mouse pad that's plugged into the computer anyway. It's kind of eliminating that cord without really eliminating the cord, if it makes any sense. Like you're getting the cord still, like you would power the mouse. However, it's not in your way. From what I see, though, this pad surface is replaceable, so you can switch between a hard surface to the original Firefly or soft surface, similar to the mouse pads most of us are accustomed to. It says the Mamba Hyperflex requires the Firefly Hyperflux mouse pad in order to function. It has a magnetic coil built in that powers the mouse no matter where it is on the pad. And it looks to be pretty large, almost like it's the size of a small laptop, kind of. It doesn't have a battery, obviously, so it weighs like 0.21 pounds. So I'm kind of excited for this. However, it'll be sold, the pad and the mouse is sold for $250 and expected to hit stores at the end of Q1 2018. But I'm definitely down with this. I like this concept. Just because it gives you a nice surface to use it on, and you get a really beastie mouse. So the other thing is Microsoft, and this came out a couple days ago, but Microsoft shares its pre-order details for the $319 Cortana thermostat. I'm not a fan of the $319 aspect, but the thing with a thermostat, like it's digital, it's very crystal clear to read. It's on a piece of glass, which if you have children, that's going to get shattered first time it gets hit with a ball. Because it's not flat against the wall. I do like how it juts out. Like there's this little, it looks like a 2 to 3 inch high box, and it powers it, and it's got everything on there. And then you've got this glass screen with a pull down, so you can modify things. It tells like the temperature inside, outside, the settings, air quality, day of the week, and so you can edit all those things. And it's very plain, but it's to the point. Like I don't like modern thermostats or prehistoric thermostats. Like I'm all for this higher intelligent, better designed digital aspect of the thermostat, because I find them to be very irritating to program with all the various buttons. I just want something where I can actually it says change settings, and then I can just change what I need to and then go back to main screen. Like this it's so frustrating. I'm not a fan of the old stuff. But anyways, they're saying that the software giant partnered with Johnson Controls, the maker of the first in-room thermostat, to create the device, and it's going to be for pre-order for delivery in March 2018. But glass is powered by Windows 10 IoT Core and features basically the translucent screen. But I do like how it's going to monitor the indoor-outdoor weather, the air quality. So I kind of want to mention as well some of the other things that kind of came up. So I noticed this article of current Fox shows will not be moving to ABC despite the Disney merger, which is, I kind of expect that. I mean, it's not, just because it's a part of the same mouse house doesn't mean that it's going to be on the same channel. That would be like Lucasfilms taking on Marvel projects. I mean, it's not, it just doesn't mesh in the same way. It just makes it another avenue for people to consume the content. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of an interesting headline. There's really no reason to go into it any further, because it's just, you're not going to see The Simpsons on ABC or on Disney Channel or something. So it's kind of funny there. And then Warner Brothers, because they have that new CEO, admits that Warner Brothers copying Disney with Marvel is a bad idea. And he wants to take them back to being the more big budget, productions, and just kind of doing what they do, and setting their own kind of timeline standard and goals, and kind of setting the fact that, you know, he's a fan of superhero movies too. So it's kind of interesting to see that the shakeup is putting somebody in there that wants to make good movies, not necessarily make duplicates and clone what Disney's done with their workflow, which honestly I'm kind of glad, because Disney's workflow and thing is kind of getting old and stale at this point. I mean, I enjoy the films, don't get me wrong, but you kind of get this formulaic approach where you kind of know who's living 2 movies ahead of time. So it kind of makes it a little anticlimactic. Like, you knew Iron Man and you knew Captain America weren't going to die at any point, around Iron Man 3, just because we're after Civil War, because they were cast for Infinity War, Avengers 3 and 4 and everything else. So I mean, it's kind of funny that the way this is all going down. And then Matt Reeves, of course, this whole thing with Matt Reeves and his Batman is kind of turning into that the Beetlejuice 2, like Bill and Ted 3 scenario, where you're just going to continuously hear about it and nothing's going to happen for a while, if ever. And they keep saying that, I've worked the story out, and he's going to have Jake Gyllenhaal possibly, or somebody like that, be Batman in it. I just, at this point, I don't care. I get so tired of all these clickbaity articles and content, instead of just, they report on this one item, and I'm no better in this instance to some degree, but I don't see the reason for it. Anyways, so I'm going to take a quick break and come back with some kind of cool podcasting stuff on the other side. So I'll be back after this. So I mentioned how I wanted to talk about podcasting. Well, I've always wanted to go to a podcasting convention. I still do, and I'm hoping that this year gets to be that year. One of them that's coming up is Podcast Movement, and that's in July, I believe. Yeah, July, in Pennsylvania, which isn't really that far from Michigan, and I would honestly love to go. I really hoping that I get to go at least for work or something like that, but just because it would be an incredible experience, meeting other podcasters, learning a bunch of things from panels and seminars and whatnot, and just kind of touring around and learning things. So it would be kind of cool to do that, that whole endeavor. I've been following a lot of these for years, just because now that I'm kind of heavy into it and podcasting is kind of coming into the mainstream, it's just something I want to do. Actually, it's not Pennsylvania. It's in Philadelphia. So whatever. I don't know. I'm sounding super ignorant right now. It's awesome. So it's so expensive. I can't afford it on my own. But podcasting is getting big when there's a new series coming to ABC about it. Remember when they did that show Selfie, and I thought that was the dumbest thing in the world, just because it's centered, like, it sounds like it's centered around people taking a photo of themselves. This one's called Alex Inc. And it's got Zach Braff from, I forget what he's been in, but he was in the that comedy show, I'm trying to think of the name of it, where he was Scrubs. That's what it was, Scrubs. But anyways, he was in that, and it looks like they've shot most of the season, or at least the first half of it anyway, like first 7 or 8 episodes. And he's playing a guy named Alex Schumann. He's got a wife, 2 kids, and it starts off with a trailer where he's basically podcasting from his bed. I'm gonna in a second I'm gonna put the clip in there. But anyways, it says coming to ABC March 28th at 8:30, 7:30 Central, and so I'm I'm kind of looking forward to this to see how this kind of turns out. Just because it's a 37-year-old dude that starts his own business in podcasting. So I find the whole concept really, really intriguing. And despite the fact that it could possibly fail, I'm thinking it may fail. But then again, I've seen worse things happen. And with the way that podcasting is going in the modern day, I'm not going to be surprised in the slightest if this goes on further than that. So I'm going to take a quick break, put in part of the trailer here, and then pick it back up on the other side with some thoughts on Pandora's podcast genome project.
It's 4 a.m. and I am too excited to sleep. Tomorrow is my first official day as the boss of my new podcast company. You might wonder why someone with a good job, a wife, 2 kids, and a dancer's body would do something so risky. It's because I believe there's a place where I can tell the kind of stories I want to tell, where I can work with the kind of people I want to work with, and most of all, where no one, and I mean no one, can tell me what to do.
Will you please shut up?
Oh, sorry, honey. That's the person who was snoring earlier. Now, guys, this podcast about our lives only works if you ignore the microphone and just act like you'd normally act.
Hello, Governor. I'm a British person.
Or do that.
Everyone needs to be ready to walk out that door in 5.
Wait, you're taking us?
I know you're used to Dad doing a lot more of these things because at his old job he had more flexible hours and made good money and had great benefits and still decided to quit and thrust us into chaos.
Come on back, baby.
Welcome to the Nerd Factory.
It's an incubator, babe. Everyone here has ideas they're developing. Those guys are designing a robot that rocks a baby to sleep.
Heads up! Coming along, fellas. I believe in this company. That's why I'm putting everything I have into it.
You don't have anything.
Yeah, but it's all in there.
Well, who's going to watch the kids?
What about Ben?
I don't know. Where's the fire extinguisher?
Under the sink.
Where's the other fire extinguisher?
Coat closet next to the broken vacuum.
Okay, Soraya chokes on a grape. How do you do the Heimlich maneuver?
With the thumb side of my fist, I press against her abdomen and exert pressure until the grape is expelled.
Wow. Is that right?
What do I know? I'm not a paramedic. The company's going great. All we need is a name.
Fire.
Ooh, I like that. Like stories around the campfire.
No, like the bacon's on fire.
Dad, I don't feel good.
Your temperature is 135 degrees.
I told you it was a doozy.
I'm scared. We have so much riding on this. Our savings, this house, our careers.
Maybe this is why you shouldn't start a company when you're a 37-year-old dad.
Nobody thinks radio is cool, but when you do it, it's amazing. What did I say?
Exactly what I needed to hear.
This is a completely normal workplace.
Heads up!
Kids, drum roll. When you put your heart and soul into something, it can be tough to release it into the world. And in the end, the people you love may make your life difficult.
Whoa.
Well, indeed. But today, I succeeded not in spite of my family, but because of them. Sorry, honey.
And we're back. So, like I said, it kind of sounds interesting, kind of sounds fun. It's a little hokey, but, you know, you kind of get the gist. It's kind of actually, in a sense, like how podcasting actually is. But anyways, Pandora wants to build the podcast genome project and help shows monetize, which has been the kind of $1 billion question of what's going to go on. But anyways, Pandora's launched its Apple Music competitor after acquiring RDO. So it sounds like they're going to have a massive podcast catalog, and it's next on the radar. So honestly, I really am fine with it as long as they beat Apple in a submission, because I find Apple annoying with their iTunes and the way that they handle everything. It's too slow of a process. So anyways, Apple hosts the largest directory podcast that separates from Apple Music, while Spotify and Apple Play Music both include subscription music and podcasts in the same experience. But Pandora wants to further evolve it into a more modern entertainment platform, So their primary product remains ad-supported streaming music and not on-demand subscription music like its competitors. However, it hopes to apply that to podcasts too. So Lynch describes the current monetization strategy of ad reads per episode as not the most effective advertising model, and believes Pandora can help podcasters monetize shows. So obviously that's a win-win for listeners, podcasters, and Pandora if it works out, but there's no clear indication of whether Pandora will expand its streaming catalog to become a podcast directory and advertising opportunity. So it's definitely something to keep on the horizon. I'm very hopeful on this because honestly, I would love another way to monetize this and not be inadvertently annoying with it. I don't get me wrong. I like advertisers. I like money, but I don't want to rake anybody over the coals. I do love doing this though. And that's kind of the point of it. I really like podcasting, and I think this is kind of cool information to have. So, has anybody noticed the audiograms? And what I mean by that is the those little portrait videos that I've been putting out occasionally with the 20-minute shows, kind of teasing the next one. Has anybody noticed those on Facebook and Twitter? And what are your opinions of them? Where it kind of it turns some of the audio into a video, and it this recent one had a transcription of a thing that Mike said in the actual episode. So what are you guys' thoughts on that whole thing? And is there anything that you guys want me to talk about in the coming episodes, like whether it be in the 20-minute episodes with Mike, or like a certain topic or a certain discussion, or do you guys just want kind of random opinions on things? I mean, just throw it out here. Send it to me, feedback at alteredgeek.com. You can send it to at alteredgeek on Facebook or Twitter, or at SCP21 on Twitter. Just hit me up and let me know what you guys think and what you guys want. Because I'm really looking for more discussion things, and I'm kind of hoping to break in there with a little bit more of that and less of the newsy stuff. I mean, yeah, some of it's interesting, but some of it's just kind of like, meh, everybody's doing it. One thing I did notice with the day in tech history thing, and I found this to be kind of funny that there was multiple things that were all on the same day, and this was the January 1st, and I kind of forgot to do this. They had in 1908 the first ball drop in Times Square. Hewlett-Packard became a thing. Instead of Hewlett and Packard, they became Hewlett-Packard in 1939. In 1946, the ENIAC basically was created, which it's like a giant computer, first fully electronic computer is completed by its designers. And then 1970, they get the Unix Epoch Time begins in Greenwich. So yeah, that's kind of cool. And then in 1983, the dawn of the internet with ARPANET and the Internet Protocol, and then 1984, the breakup of American Telephone and Telegraph Company, Bell, because of the antitrust of AT&T, so they broke it up. And then in 1985, the domain name service is .com is created. The domain name system, Nordu.net and whatnot. And then in 2000, they had the Y2K thing, which my grandfather was a very firm advocate, was just baloney, because everybody was like, oh, the world's going to end, everything's going to shut down, the computers are going to delete everything, everybody's going to die, blah, blah, blah. And so, like, my grandpa's like, I'm going to laugh when the clock turns over and everything's still here, everything still works, and everybody's, just making a mountain out of a molehill, because even in this thing, it says after years of hysteria regarding the Y2K bug, The world's computers begin using the date 2000 with no major catastrophes. There's still debate whether the year 2000 problem was overblown by the tech industry or if the frantic updating done by armies of software developers leading up to Y2K averted the disaster. And I think it was just they made a mountain out of a molehill and blew it out of proportion. I still think it's hilarious, the whole thing. Sadly, my grandfather did not live to reach the year 2000. He passed away like 2 weeks before that occasion, but I could imagine his sarcasm and humor after the fact if he would have survived that long and laughing in the faces of the media and the tech industry and everybody losing their crap over the fact that it was going to turn to the year 2000. It's just mind-boggling. It's hilarious, but it's still mind-boggling. So yeah, anyways, I'm going to call this episode to a close. I think it's been pretty decent. I don't want to drag it on any further. There's not really any other content I want to talk about this episode. So until next time, get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks.